Okay. So this is the division of faith, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17. Before we begin, let us pay a Mangalacharan to Sri Radha Govinda. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Nananjana Shalakaya Chakshumita Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Stapitam Ena Bhotale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vittam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakana Vittamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dino Bandho Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha Kalpatrabhyascha Kripa Sindhave Evacha Patitam Nam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhotale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasha Deshatarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So what did we see in the last? So we are in the Jnana Yoga section, right? So Krishna is giving from chapter 13 onwards, 13, 14, 15 is all about giving us the philosophy about how to get detached from this material world, right? So in the last, he talked about the transcendental and the demonic qualities and how this demonic nature comes and how to escape the thing. The choice is in us to either develop that or these qualities. And this chapter is most on about faith, how material modes of nature affects the faith, the worship, the food, even the lifestyle, sacrifices, austerity, charity in the most, and how Om Tat Sat. So this is the thing. So what did we learn? It explained the divine qualities that elevate one on the tree and leads to liberation. So this was the Urdhva Mula, which we studied in chapter 15, where this analogy was taken by Krishna to explain how the material world is just a reflection of the spiritual world. And what is that? Then the tree which we see as a reflection in the water surface acts a reflection. And if there's no water surface was not there, there won't be any reflection of the tree, isn't it? Same way, if there was no desire, that desire to enjoy independent of Krishna, then we won't have this material world. So this is the platform of the surface where the material world is reflected. And how we see so many varieties is there also in the spiritual world. Because it's there, we can see it in as a reflection. Okay. So, and here he talked about the leaves are the Vedic kings, how it's nourishing the tree, the material modes of nature, and how the lower, as we by impious activities, we go lower and lower, or by pious activities, we can climb up to the higher planets, right? And how Krishna said, by the acts of determination, we have to cut the tree, otherwise you cannot think, because the branches now is so dense, like a banyan tree is always very dense tree, and it covers a whole area. We can't know where it's ending, which is its actual root and all that. Even if you cut one branch, there are other branches which will feed the tree. So only by acts of detachment, only by that we can come out of this material world sense gratification. And then he's talked about the divine qualities, how to elevate on the tree, because, and who are the ones who read the scriptures. If they don't read the scriptures and who don't obey that, they develop the medamonic quality and the mentality which drives them to lower and the thing, and ultimately they don't reach the thing. Then Krishna also established that faithful followers of Shastra are divine and the faithless are demonic. The Shastras, injection. So now Arjuna is asking, they will be having some faith, but they may not follow the scriptures thing. So is he in goodness, passion, or ignorance? That means somewhere in the middle. Now, when he talked about divine qualities and demonic, that two extreme ends of the string. So there are many who are in the middle. So once more determines one's activities, faith and worship in the modes. Okay. Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, what is the situation of one who does not follow the principles of scriptures, but worships according to his own imagination? Is he in goodness, passion, or in ignorance?" So there are many followers. No, they have their own faith. They have their own thing. It's not as per any scriptures or anything. So if you Google, you can see something like this. So then Arjuna wants to know what's their position. Okay, whether they are in the sattva guna or passion or ignorance. And you can see how Arjuna is very aware, this thing, student. How, because in 16.23 verse, 23rd verse in chapter 6, Krishna has said, Yash Shastra Vidim Ustrija Vartate Kama Kartaha Na Sa Siddhim Avapnoti Na Sukham Na Param Gati. Who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims, attains neither perfection, neither siddhim, nor happiness, nor sukham, nor the supreme destination, nor param gati. So, Arjuna is using the same words. Ye shastra vitim ustricha yajanti shraddhaya tesam nishtatu ka Krishna. Sattvam aho rajastam. That means he is not following the scriptures, but worships according to his own imagination. Is he in goodness, in passion, or ignorance? So it's like, he's very clear in his doubts, There are certain things that can happen like this. So Sri Bhagwan Uvacha, Trivida Bhavati Shraddha. So Shraddha means faith. There are three kinds. Dehinam sa swabhava cha satvik rajasi chaiva tamasi chevi tamshum. According to the modes of nature acquired by the soul, one's faith can be of three kinds. 9 says goodness, passion, or ignorance. About this, I will tell you, please listen. So let's see what Krishna says. Hare Krishna, anyone wants to read? Those who know the regulations can volunteer. Shivam Prabhuji or Sanjay Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji, go ahead.
Okay. Purport. Those who know the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but out of laziness or indolence, give up following these rules and regulations are governed by the modes of material nature. According to their previous activities in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, they acquire a nature which is of a specific quality. The association of the living entity with the different modes of nature has been going on perpetually since the living entity is in contact with material nature. He acquires different types of mentality according to his association with the material modes. But this nature can be changed if one associates with a bona fide spiritual master and abides by the rules and the scriptures. Gradually, one can change his position from ignorance to goodness, or from passion to goodness. The conclusion is that blind faith is a particular mode of nature cannot help a person become elevated to the perfectional stage. One has to consider things carefully with intelligence in the association of a bona fide spiritual master. Thus, one can change his position to a higher mode of nature. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here Krishna says apasvabhava. That means How do they get their nature? By the association with the modes. So from previous births, they would have had a mentality which will carry on to this birth. Okay. So they acquire it because of their association with the material. So you might be in a mode of more in, it may not be that in your previous birth you was only in the mode of goodness or only in this, because there would be a combination. Okay. It could have been in some proportions of goodness, passion. So you come with that mentality in this birth, right? So, and you will, so the faith is also in that, depends on the kinds, whether they are in sattva guna, rajas or ignorance. Okay. So it depends upon how they association. But they can change this position from ignorance to goodness or from passion. How? If they come into with the help of a spiritual master. So when they associate with the spiritual master and abide by his rules and things and take to his discipline, then they can change from their thing and be to raise it. It's not permanent, but these modes of nature which they get, because they are all been in the cycle of birth and death, and their nature is being given the versions. But a spiritual master can help, take the mercy of a spiritual master who can help you to change your position. Okay. So that's what Krishna says. You have to use our, you have to consider these things carefully with intelligence in the association of a bona fide spiritual master. So whatever thing modes we are in, it all depends on the faith, depends upon the nature, swabhava, and what we have acquired from our previous birth, and we continue. Whereas one was a particular kind of the living is said to be according to the modes he has acquired. Yajanti sattvika devan, ekshasa rakshasami, amsi rajasaha, pretan bhuta ganam chane, yajanti tamasa jana. Men in the mode of goodness worship the demigods. And those in the mode of passion worship the demons, and those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and things. So this is how their nature is. So this is how they worship. So their faith, all three kinds of faith, depends on that, and accordingly they take to that time of worship. Okay. But those who so not only the worship, Preta Bunna Ejanti. Here Krishna says, Dehinam sa Swabhavacha Satvik Rajasi Cha. So it all depends on the three kinds, right? Those who undergo severe austerities and penance not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride, egotism, lust and attachment, compelled by passion, torture the bodily organs as well as the super soul, dwelling in unauthorized demons. So like this kind of austerity, tapas they do. Or like this Ravana who created a thing, then you see the Hiranyakashipu. And these are the kind of yoga practice. He says it's not there in the scriptures, but they perform and they're considered as demons by the Lord. Okay. There are persons who manufacture modes of austerity and penances which are not mentioned in the scriptural injunctions. See, for instance, fasting for some ulterior purpose, such as to promote a purely political end, is not mentioned in the scripture direction. See, these politicians who fast, they show something. It's not recommended in the scriptures. Okay? The scriptures recommend fasting for spiritual advancement, not for political end or social purpose. So people who take such austerities are, according to Bhagavad Gita, certainly demonic, because their acts are not in as per the spiritual injunctions. So they are not beneficial for the people in general. Actually, they act out of pride, false ego, lust and attachment for material enjoyment. So this is what it says. But and such activities, not only the combination of material words which is constructed disturbed, even the Paramatma who is himself within the body is also disturbed. Such unauthorized fasting or restrictions for some political end are certainly very disturbing to others. So they are not mentioned in the Vedic literature. So what happens? This is what Krishna says, that when they do something which is not as per the scriptures, it's certainly disturbing to people and it is demonic. And demonic people, why they do it? They want to force his enemy or other parties to comply with his desire. So, or sometimes they even die. So these acts are not approved by Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they are demons. So just demonstrations are insults to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are enacted in disobedience to the Vedic scripture. So here Krishna clearly says that in Vedas and the scriptures are important because you have to read. They are the ones who guide us. They give us the knowledge, okay, to how to come out of this material world. So if you don't follow them, then you are disobeying that. Persons of normal mental condition must obey the scriptures. Not in the position, neglect and disobey, they manufacture their own way of austerities and penance. So, and finally, Krishna says, people are demonic, what happens? They take birth in the lower species. So, and they will never attain the perfection. So, we have to be, if however, such persons are fortunate enough to be guided by a spiritual master who can direct them to the path of Vedic wisdom, they can get out of this entire. So that's the reason why Prabhupada took so much effort and endeavor to put, to translate it to English and other languages, encourage so that people from different languages can read the scriptures, Bhagavatam, how it was all translated in other languages and things, so that it will be available to everybody, the scriptures, because that's where the knowledge is, how people can elevate at least to the mode of goodness. So, aharastvapi sarvasya trivido bhavati priya. Yajna means tapas, sacrifice, tapas, or tata dhana, that is austerities, then charity. Tesham vedam means. Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds, according to the three modes of materialization. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now, here of the distinction. Why is Krishna is going so in detail to tell us about it? Because it will help us to identify in which mode we are in. Okay, by our preferences of food choices we make, and our preferences in the charity or in the austerities we take up or sacrifice, and that will help us to know which mode we are in, and we can elevate ourselves from the, if it's in ignorance or passion, we can go up to the goodness, because that's where you can find at least peace. So, identifying the mode of faith by observing the activities of eating, sacrifice, austerity, and charity we perform. So, wise people, those who know and discriminate based on these activities. So, once they know this, they get the knowledge and they will act on it. But the foolish people, they don't bother. They don't bother what thing they will behave as their own whims and fancies. They don't understand there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is a cycle of birth and death, and what thing. They will never prepare for that. Okay, so they will just consider everything is same, whether a thing, and if you do sacrifice and thing in whatever attitude you are in, they think that will give them the benefits. But here Krishna is going to tell us how it is different. Foods. The foods in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life. Purifies one's existence, give us strength, bala, health, happiness, and satisfaction. So that is the food. What is that? Such nourishing foods are sweet, juicy, fattening, and palatable. Okay, so that's it. Foods that are too bitter, too salty, pungent, dry, and hot are like people in the modes of passion. Such foods cause pain, distress, and disease. Food cooked more than 3 hours before being eaten, which is tasteless, stale, putrid, decomposed, unclean, is food like by people in the mode of ignorance. So, Krishna says, depends upon our liking. We take some liking, to some sour food or something. He says, if your liking is there into the thing, you can understand in which mode you are in. By the food you taste and food you like. Okay. So then sacrifices. The sacrifice performed according to duty and to scriptural rules, and with no expectation of reward is of the nature of goodness. That means you do your sacrifices as per the scriptures. It's not that thing. And we know that for the Kali Yuga, Sankirtana Yajna, that is chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, is the yajna for this Kali Yuga. In the other yugas, there were different type of yajnas, right? So, but for Kali Yuga, it is Sankirtana Yajna, and with no expectation of reward is of the nature of it. That means you just chant the names of the Lord to take his name so that you can remember him all the time without expecting any reward. Is the nature of goodness. So, according to the directions of scriptures, no mental speculation, performed only as a matter of duty, like go to temple, church, or not for economic benefit, and to bow by and to offer respect to Supreme, and desire no reward or thing. So, actually, generally, our tendency, we'll have some purpose in our mind, to offer with a purpose. So here Krishna says, do it without any expectations of reward. Okay, that is the sacrifice. But there are sacrifices performed as some material end of benefit performed out of pride. It's the nature of passion. They want to show off that I'm doing such elaborate yajna and so much of things I've used for the sacrifice and things. Then it is only out of pride. So it says it's a nature of passion. But there are sacrifices performed defiance of scriptures. There was like Pasmasura, used to cut his parts of his body and put it in the fire. It's not there in the scriptures, right? But that is done, in which no spiritual food is distributed, no hymns are chanted, no remunerations are made to the priest. That is faithless. That sacrifice is the nature of weakness because they are not following the scriptures. Okay. So now he talked about faith, worship, then he talked about sacrifice, then charity. Now austerity. So austerity in the modes, right? Here in these 3-4 verses, Krishna talks about 3 kinds of austerities. Austerities of body, austerities of speech, austerity of mind. Okay. So these are the how we have to see. When you think, if we not even have Krishna consciousness, even this is, even for a lifestyle, even if I think, even for a peaceful living, it is good to have this austerity of body, speech, and mind. Worship of the Supreme Lord, Brahmana, spiritual master, superiors, Father. That means show respect with your body to these Supreme Lord, Brahmanas, spiritual master, and your elders. And also you should maintain your body with clean, should be simple, and celibacy and non-violence. You don't hurt anybody. Okay. So that way you follow the austerity of body. And about the speech, you speak truthful words, pleasing to the others, and it should be beneficial, not something to agitate them, right? And also to recite Vedic literatures. So that is the austerity of speech. Otherwise, don't speak. Just keep quiet. Don't bother. Then mind, gravity in thought, satisfaction, simplicity, self-control. It purifies one's existence. So if you follow these austerities of body, speech, and mind, it's good. And that also. So the austerity of the body consists in this: worshipping the Supreme Lord, spiritual master, superiors like Father, cleanliness, simplicity, honest things. Pujanam, Saucham, Arjavam, Brahmacharyam, Ahimsacha, Shariram Tapa Uchyate. Okay. And Anudvega Karam Vakyam, Satyam Priya Hitam Chadyat, Sadaya Bhashanam Chaiva, Vanmayam Tapa Uchyate. So you should recite Vedas regularly, that is clean, and speaking truthfully and beneficially, and avoiding speech that offends the people. Serenity, simplicity, gravity, self-control, purity of thought are the austerities of the mind, right? The threefold austerity practiced by men whose aim is not to materially but to please the Supreme. This is the nature of goodness. So here Krishna says, when you form this austerity, you should be in the pleasing the Supreme. Okay. So that's the thing. There's nothing, same thing, not expecting material thing, but engaged for the sake of Supreme is called austerity in the goodness. Right? So these ostentatious penances and austerities which are performed in order to gain respect, honor, and reverence are said to be in the mode of passion. They are neither stable nor permanent. Okay. And those penances and austerities which are performed foolishly by means of obstinate self-torture or to destroy or injure others are said to be in the mode of ignorance. So now comes, so we talked about sacrifice, austerity. Now comes to charity. Datvayam iti yad dhyanam dhyati anupakarne deshe kale cha patre cha tad dhanam satvikam smat. That gift which is given out of duty at the proper time, not just any time and place, to a worthy person and without expectation of return is considered to be charity in the mode of goodness. So you see how we have to be discriminate even while doing charity. When we are giving some gifts, we have to be very careful. Okay. So as a duty, given out of duty without expectation of results at the proper time and place to a worthy person, not to anybody, right? But charity performed with expectation of some return or with a desire for results or in a grudging mode. Why do you say grudging mode? Suppose you are in a group, in a society, and the society, generally they have majority, they would have decided to give some charity to some organization. But you are, because you are in that society, you are obliged to give. But actually, you may not like it personally. So even if you do that in a grudging mode, is said to be in rajas. You're doing the charity in the mode of passion. And this we saw, like, how in COVID time, many things, such things we could see. How politicians took advantage. So they expect some honor, something, desire for fruitive results. They are done in grudging mode, is supposed to be charity in passion. And charity performed at improper place and time and given to unworthy person without respect and with contempt is charity. So sometimes we don't know when we give some charity and they have used it for some buying cigarettes or drugs and things, then you also be the part of this, you get the part of the karma. So it is in the mode of ignorance. So we should be very, very careful. So Krishna is very, very clear in every aspect of a lifestyle he is touching upon. So he's giving us clear instructions how we should perform and how should we be in the mode of goodness all the time and not try to slide down. Improper place, impure place, no proper respect, no proper attention to unworthy persons. So conclusion is what? So he talked about all that and how in different modes. And finally he says, Om Tat Sat. If you do everything from the beginning of creation, the 3 syllables Om Tat Sat have been used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. They were uttered by Brahmanas while chanting Vedic hymns and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of Supreme. So it's there that Om Tat Sat, that words has always been indicating that we should do everything for the Lord, Supreme Person. Okay? Chanting Vedic hymns and during sacrifices for the satisfaction. It is there, but we forget it or we may not remember. Okay? Thus, the transcendentalists undertake sacrifice, charities, and penance, beginning always with Om to attain the thing. So the Om means Vishnu. It is placed at the beginning of Vedic hymns to indicate. But we sometimes just blindly do it without understanding. Here Krishna clearly says, Om means Vishnu. It is placed at the beginning of Vedic hymns to indicate the Supreme. And you should perform sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word Tat, Tattvamasi. That is detachment, with detached work for the sake of liberation. So they are done with regards for material results. You are free from, only then you are free from material entanglement, if you do it for the Lord. And Sat. Sat means activities done for the service of the Lord. Truth is the objective of devotional service, indicates Sat. These works of sacrifice, of penance and charity should be true to the observed, performed to please the Supreme Person. Only then you will get the spiritual nature. In such activity, the performer affections becomes internal, the activities are aimed at an internal, and benefits also are eternal. Okay, otherwise it's not. So factually, the transcendental sound Omkara, although a combination of the three letters Om as transcendental potency. One who chants Omkara will very soon realize Omkara. And Lord Vishnu, this is taken from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 7, 128. There also, in Chaitanya Charitamrita also you see that Omkara is a combination of three letters and it has a lot of potential. So once you chant this, you soon realize, because Lord Vishnu is the one sound Omkara. It's told even in chapter 7. We saw it in chapter, we saw in chapter 7 also, then 8, that about the Omkara. How Omkara, the sound vibration of Omkara is Lord Vishnu. And again here, there's more in the purport also, you can see Karakshyate Krishna, the letter refers to Krishna. Sarva Lokaika Nayaka. So in this, if you read the purport of this verse, you can see there what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. The letter U indicates Srimati Radharani, pressure potency. Ma indicates living entities. So there's a very elaborate purport. I wish you all read it and you get a good explanation on this Omkara. But sacrifice, austerity and charity performed without faith in the Supreme are non-permanent. Son of Pritham, regardless of whatever rites are performed, they are called asat. And they're useless because it's not, you can't, whatever the benefits, you don't carry it. Any spiritual benefits, you always carry to the next birth, right? But whatever the endeavor you are putting in this kind of sacrifices, charity and all that, it's a waste if you don't have faith in the Supreme. Then it is waste. So finally, Krishna concludes, you should have faith in the Supreme Lord. Then only whatever activities, whatever things you do, it will have some benefits, future benefits. So these are the things which we talked about is a lifestyle. Who has, and it is only the material modes of nature which determines one's activities. It depends on what kind of three kinds of faith we have. Faith in the mode of goodness, faith in the mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. Same way the worship. And they talk, people who are in the mode of goodness, they worship the devatas. I think they were demons. This is the nature. So all this explanation is all on our lifestyle. Food in the modes, sacrifice in the modes, then a charity, then conclusion. And austerity, talked about austerity of body, mind and speech. So these all are things which you can imbibe in a lifestyle. You can take the instructions and you can follow that and try to be in the mode of goodness. So he says, if you take up a spiritual master, then he'll help you to be in the mode of goodness and take the instructions. Finally, he says, everything which is done with the faith in the Lord, then it has come spiritual benefits. Otherwise, it's not there. Okay, we can close this.